the book itself is a book of spells, right?
It's a book of spells. It's a book of different combinations, right? Showing you the different pronunciations of Islamic words, numerology, right? It's basically a bunch of Islamic occults that were happening in those times, right? The realest shit out there. Yeah.
Many Muslims might regard this as the most dangerous book in the world. It's called Shams al-Maarif. But why is this book so feared? Well, you see, in the religion of Islam, the practice of sihr, which is black magic or the occult sciences, is strictly forbidden. And well, a large portion of this book teaches exactly that. So what exactly is taught in this book? Well, to begin, it teaches you how to make talismans, mostly using things called magical squares, along with things like numerology, how to interpret certain dreams, but perhaps the most feared aspect of this book, it presents guides on how to summon and work with jinn. You see, in Islam, and I guess just general Arabian folklore as well, there are these entities called jinn. They're often described to exist in another world, a world of their own, but they possess the ability to pass into our world, as well as the ability to do a range of other incredible things. Some stories talk about trapped jinn having to grant wishes as well. Many of you might be familiar with that. The original Shams al-Ma'arif was written in the 13th century by a man named Al-Buni. However, the Shams al-Ma'arif that exists today is considerably different to the Shams al-Ma'arif written by Al-Buni. The original Shams al-Ma'arif from the 13th century was essentially a guide on Sufi mysticism, Islamic mysticism. And of course, Islamic mysticism or Sufism was quite widespread around North Africa, where Al-Buni was from, during the 13th century. Shams al-Ma'arif translates to son of knowledge, and that is what Al-Buni's original work was titled. However, the Shams al-Ma'arif that exists today and is widespread and often seen as a cursed book is actually titled Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra, meaning the great son of knowledge. And this book is believed to be a compilation of a range of different works written by a range of different authors and compiled in the 17th century. While a significant part of this book does come from the works of Al-Buni, many of the occult practices taught in this book come from different people who likely lived in different time periods. And yet it seems that one man who was likely well respected in his time period gets all the blame for creating a cursed book.
Let's get straight back into it. You guys want gin stories? Cool, I got you. Let me tell you about a book that is cursed. So cursed, it causes the unalivings of several people, and it is banned in Saudi Arabia to this day. Now, this book was written in the 13th century by a man called Ahmad al-Buni. In his time, this man was considered a theologian, a mathematician, a philosopher, and a mysticist. That means he was obsessed with the dark arts, things that you shouldn't be obsessing over in our religion. Now, his obsessive, compulsive religious studying of the occult and the supernatural led him to compile his work into a book called Shams al-Ma'arif. This translates to the sun of knowledge, sun as in the ball of fire up in the sky. Now, although this was already a controversial book because of what it was studying and talking about, his book crossed the line when he began to describe guidelines and tutorials on how you can craft amulets for protection, for growth of your crops, to bring in rain, to increase your wealth and your health, to make people fall in love with you. That's when it went from a controversial book to outright diabolical. Now it was banned. His other fellow contemporary scholars, such as Ibn Taymiyyah, by the 14th century, they had already labeled him as a heretic, as a sahir, as a magician. Now, going past the first two chapters, you'll see he begins to put more and more tutorials. You'll see he puts magic squares. He'll put these colorful graphs. He'll put these weird numbers combined with letters. This was called ilm al-huruf. And all of this was designed to teach you how to summon and command jinns to do your bidding, which again, in this religion is a big no-no. Now, it's clear to see from his book, from reading his book itself, you can see that he never intended for the book to fall into layman's hands. It was never intended to be read by people like you and I. He intended for only his secret gang, his cabal, his organization to be the ones to get his hand on that book. And I'm going to quote for you directly what he said that indicates this. He says, and I quote, It is forbidden for anyone who has this book of mine in his hand to show it to someone who is not of his people and divulge it to one who is not worthy of it. Now, after he passed away in 1225, hundreds of years, over the course of several hundred years, pages, chapters, they were added to this book. Until the early 17th century, you can find the earliest indication of this compiled, finished version of the Shams al-Ma'arif. 40 chapters long. It was dubbed Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra, or the expanded Sun of Knowledge. Now this goes more into depth, talking about different type of demons, of devils you can summon, rituals you can do to bring them in. Now obviously the nature of this book has caused it to become nefarious, notorious. It is very much spoken about in the Muslim community. And this gave rise to many urban legends and scary stories. Now we'll be going over some of these in the future, but I'll give you a little taste of what's to come. One such story comes from Saudi Arabia. It involves a man who read this book. After reading the contents of this book, he married a jinn woman who then proceeded to eviscerate, to just devastate, mangle, just devastate his family, his wife, her parents, as well as his parents. They all were sent to the next world. But like I said, that's a story for another day. One more time, you guys forced me to finish the series. Cool, I'll give you what you want. 15 more stories, because I did promise 15 to be fair. When I finish this series, I'm taking a long break. But while I'm making this, if something happens to me, just understand, we're suffering together, me and you together.